The Council of Zarkon had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 cycles. 16 species bent the knee. Worlds trembled at the sight of their obsidian warships. Trade routes belonged to them. Resources flowed through their iron grip. They had never known defeat. Until they met humanity. Commander Vexlar stood aboard the flagship Dominion's Fist, his 4 eyes scanning the blue-green planet below. Earth. The reports called it primitive, pre-warp, divided into hundreds of squabbling factions. The humans had barely touched their own moon. They were nothing. Less than nothing. Begin the harvest, Vexlar commanded. The invasion took 48 hours. Zarkon dreadnoughts descended through Earth's atmosphere like falling stars. Cities burned. Governments collapsed. Billions screamed. Humanity's scattered military forces threw everything they had at the invaders. Missiles, jets, tanks. It was like throwing stones at a mountain. In Geneva, General Marcus Chen watched the command center monitors flicker and die. Smoke filled his lungs. Through the shattered windows, he saw the alien harvesters, massive biomechanical constructs that stripped entire city blocks, processing concrete, steel, and flesh into raw materials. His hand shook. "Sir, we've lost contact with Beijing, Washington, and Moscow," his aide whispered. "The European defense line is gone. We're the last operational command post in the hemisphere." Marcus closed his eyes. 30 years of military service. 3 wars. Medals that meant nothing now. His wife and daughter were in Barcelona, were past tense. The harvesters had reached Barcelona 6 hours ago. "Sound the global retreat," he said quietly. "Tell everyone still alive to scatter, hide, survive." The Zarkon didn't understand mercy. They understood efficiency. Humans were categorized useful labor, biomass, or obstacles. The useful ones were herded into processing camps. The rest were converted. By the end of the first month, Earth's population had been reduced by 60%. The survivors learned to hide in bunkers, caves, subway tunnels. They learned to move at night. They learned to be ghosts. The galaxy watched with cold indifference. Another primitive world had fallen. The pattern was ancient. The Zarkon would strip Earth bare over the next decade, then move on. The humans would be enslaved, their culture erased, their history forgotten. It had happened before. It would happen again. But something was different about the humans. 3 months into the occupation, Lieutenant Kira Hayes crouched in the ruins of New York's subway system. 43 survivors huddled around her. Engineers, soldiers, teenagers, a retired astrophysicist. Above them, harvester drones swept the streets with sensor beams. "We can't just hide forever," someone whispered. "Then what?" Another hissed. "They destroyed our armies in 2 days." Kira's jaw tightened. She'd lost her entire platoon in the first week. Watched her best friend vaporized by plasma fire. Spent every night since planning, calculating, refusing to surrender. The Zarkon had superior technology, superior firepower, but they had a weakness. Every invader did. "We study them," Kira said. "We learn. We adapt with what?" "We're starving. We have no weapons." Kira pulled out a battered tablet, its screen cracked but functional. On it were schematics, rough, incomplete, but revolutionary. She'd been collecting data. Every Zarkon drone that passed overhead, every harvester patrol, every communication signal. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the astrophysicist, had been decoding their frequencies. Marcus Chen, who'd made his way to New York, had been coordinating with other survivor cells worldwide through encrypted radio bursts. The Zarkon use quantum-locked power cores, Yuki explained, hunched over the tablet. Their systems are networked. If we can disrupt the network even locally, their drones fall, Marcus finished. We've already tested it in Sydney. Captured an intact harvester. Eyes widened in the darkness. "We're not just surviving anymore," Kira said, her voice cutting through the despair like a blade. "We're fighting back." Word spread through the underground. Human ingenuity, forged in desperation, began to bloom. Engineers repurposed alien technology. Hackers cracked communication protocols. Soldiers trained in guerrilla tactics. In Shanghai's flooded tunnels, in the Amazon's hidden valleys, in the frozen wastes of Siberia, humanity's scattered remnants began to network, plan, and build. The Zarkon noticed nothing. To them, the humans were insects, occasionally troublesome, easily crushed. Commander Vexlar received reports of minor disruptions, a drone here, a patrol there, acceptable losses. The harvest continued ahead of schedule. Then came the night everything changed. 6 months into the occupation, coordinated strikes hit Zarkon installations across 15 cities simultaneously. Not clumsy attacks with primitive weapons, precise surgical operations using the aliens' own technology against them. Harvesters went dark. Communication towers collapsed. Supply depots exploded in chain reactions that lit the night sky. Vexler's command center erupted in chaos. Alarms shrieked. Holographic displays showed cascading system failures. Impossible. The humans were broken, scattered. How? Recall all forces to defensive positions, he roared. Find their base of operations and burn it to... The transmission cut. The lights flickered. For 3 heartbeats, the flagship's bridge went dark. When the emergency systems kicked in, Vexlar stared at the tactical display. The humans hadn't just attacked. They'd coordinated, adapted, learned, and they were accelerating. Far below, in a reinforced bunker beneath the ruins of Geneva, Marcus Chen allowed himself the first smile in 6 months. On screens around him, survivor cells worldwide reported success. Minimal casualties, maximum impact, Phase 1 complete, he announced. Begin Phase 2. Kira stood beside him, her eyes reflecting the glow of tactical maps. Outside in the darkness, humanity's resistance was no longer scattered survivors. They were becoming an army, and the Zarkon were about to learn that some prey fights back. Commander. Vexlar's War Council convened an emergency session aboard the Dominion's Fist. Holographic projections showed red markers spreading across Earth's surface like an infection. 18 major installations compromised. 47 harvester units destroyed. Human attacks were no longer desperate ambushes. They were coordinated military operations. How? Vexlar's voice was ice. They have no industrial capacity, no orbital presence. We control their skies. Sub-Commander Kraloth shifted uncomfortably. They're repurposing our technology. Every drone we lose, every piece of equipment they salvage, they're reverse engineering it, learning faster than any species we've encountered. Then stop leaving equipment for them to salvage. Sir, they're not just stealing, they're innovating. Kraloth pulled up footage from Mumbai. It showed a human strike team using cobbled-together EMP devices, crude by Zarkon standards but devastatingly effective. They're combining our tech with their own in ways our engineers never conceived. Asymmetric thinking. Unpredictable applications. Vexlar's mandibles clicked in frustration. Deploy the enforcers. Increase patrols by 300%. Begin systematic purges of suspected resistance zones. But the humans were always one step ahead. In Tokyo's subterranean shelter network, Dr. Yuki Tanaka had cracked the Zarkon communication encryption. Every order Vexlar sent, humanity intercepted. Every patrol route was mapped. Every supply convoy was tracked. Marcus Chen coordinated global operations from his Geneva bunker. But the real leadership had become decentralized. Thousands of cell commanders made independent decisions, adapted in real time, shared victories and failures across the network. Kira Hayes led one such cell, 200 fighters in the ruins of Brooklyn. They'd converted an old subway maintenance depot into a hidden arsenal. Captured Zarkon plasma rifles lined the walls. A half-dozen engineers worked around the clock, improving designs, teaching others to fight. Tonight's target is the processing plant in Midtown, Kira briefed her team. Holographic maps hacked from Zarkon satellites floated in the air. Intel says they're holding 1,800 captives. Our primary objective is extraction. Secondary is destroying their data cores. A young fighter raised his hand. What if we can't get everyone out? Kira's expression hardened. Then we make sure the Zarkon can't use them. No human gets processed. Not anymore. The strike happened at 300 hours. 12 teams hit the facility from 6 directions. EMP charges knocked out the perimeter sensors. Plasma cutters modified from Zarkon mining tools sliced through the walls. The guards inside barely had time to react before human fighters poured through, weapons blazing. But this time, something was different. The humans moved with military precision, but also with controlled fury. They'd lost too much, buried too many. Every fighter in that building had personal reasons for being there. The Zarkon had taught them pain. Now humanity was teaching them fear. Within 20 minutes, the captives were evacuated through underground tunnels. The data cores were fried. And as a final message, Kira's team planted salvaged Zarkon explosives in the facility's power core. The resulting explosion could be seen from orbit, a mushroom cloud that painted the night sky orange. Vexillar watched the feed from his flagship, his 4 eyes narrowing. They're not trying to survive anymore. They're trying to win. The pattern repeated worldwide. Shanghai, São Paulo, Cairo, Lagos, Moscow. Human cells struck with increasing sophistication. They'd learned to manufacture their own weapons, combining salvaged alien technology with Earth's industrial remnants. Underground factories hummed to life in abandoned mines and caverns. What the Zarkon didn't know, what they couldn't have predicted, was that humanity's greatest strength wasn't technology or firepower. It was the ability to share knowledge at the speed of thought. Every successful attack was documented, analyzed, and transmitted to every other cell within hours. Every failure was studied and improved upon. Humanity was learning to fight as one organism, distributed and resilient. Dr. Tanaka made the breakthrough in month 8. Working with salvaged quantum processors and Earth's remaining supercomputers, she found something the Zarkon had kept hidden. Their fleet's neural network had a back door, a failsafe the Council used to remotely control their forces if necessary. If we can access it, she explained to Marcus and Kira via encrypted video, we can do more than just disrupt their operations. We can turn their weapons against them. That's impossible, Marcus said. We'd need access to their flagship's command systems. Kira smiled grimly. Then we board their flagship. The plan was insane, suicidal, brilliant. Teams across the globe began preparing. They'd need a distraction, a massive coordinated assault to draw Vexillar's attention planetside. While he was focused on crushing the uprising, a single team would infiltrate the Dominion's fist using captured Zarkon transport signatures. 3 weeks of preparation. Every resistance cell contributed. Stockpiled weapons, trained volunteers, built experimental tech. The attack was scheduled for the 1-year anniversary of the invasion. Humanity's darkest day would become their declaration of defiance. The night before the operation, Kira stood in the Brooklyn depot, looking at faces young and old. Soldiers and scientists, parents and orphans, the remains of humanity's hope. They came to harvest us, she said quietly. They thought we'd break, scatter, die quietly in the dark. She lifted her captured plasma rifle. Tomorrow we show them what happens when you corner a predator that's learned to hunt back. Above them, in the cold vacuum of space, Commander Vexillar reviewed reports of increased human activity. His tactical officers recommended orbital bombardment, reduce the major population centers to ash, end the resistance permanently. But Vexillar had pride. The Council was watching. He would crush this rebellion the proper way, with overwhelming force and absolute dominance. He would make an example of Earth. He had no idea that humanity was about to make an example of him. The assault began at dawn. Across 63 cities, human resistance cells erupted from their hiding places like a tidal wave. Thousands of fighters armed with a year's worth of salvaged and improvised weapons hit Zarkon positions simultaneously. Explosions lit the sky. Plasma fire tore through the morning air. It looked like humanity's final desperate stand. That was exactly what Vexillar was supposed to think. All forces, engage and suppress, he commanded from the Dominion's fist. His tactical display showed human attacks everywhere. Chaotic, uncoordinated, suicidal. They're panicking. End this. While Zarkon reinforcements poured planetside, a single captured transport shuttle drifted through the orbital perimeter. Its identification codes, stolen during a raid in Singapore, marked it as a supply vessel. The board guard on monitor duty waved it through without a second glance. Inside, Kira Hayes and her team of 20 floated in zero gravity, hearts pounding. They wore salvaged Zarkon armor, carried hacked access keys, and had exactly one shot at this. Dr. Tanaka was with them, her fingers dancing across a tablet that would either save humanity or get them all killed. The shuttle docked. Kira led her team through corridors designed for beings twice their size. They moved quickly, quietly, weapons ready. 2 Zarkon technicians rounded a corner. Plasma bursts dropped them before they could raise an alarm. The bodies were dragged into a maintenance closet. Command deck is 3 levels up, Yuki whispered, consulting the stolen ship schematics. We have maybe 5 minutes before someone notices the missing techs. They moved like ghosts through an alien warship, every heartbeat an eternity. Behind them, Earth burned. Their friends died in the streets below, buying them seconds with blood. Failure wasn't an option. The command deck security required biometric scans. Yuki pulled out a severed Zarkon appendage, taken during the processing plant raid, and pressed it to the scanner. The door hissed open. Inside, 2 guards spun around. Kira's team cut them down in a precise crossfire. Alarms began to shriek, now or never. Marcus's voice crackled through the comm from Earth. Every second counts. Yuki sprinted to the primary console, jamming her hacked access key into the quantum port. Code streamed across alien displays. The backdoor Dr. Tanaka had discovered, the Council's failsafe, appeared like a crack in reality. "I'm in," she breathed. "Accessing fleet control protocols." Kira and her team formed a defensive perimeter as footsteps thundered through the corridors. Heavy footsteps. Enforcers were coming. The door exploded inward. 4 Zarkon enforcers, 9 feet tall, armored like tanks, pushed through. Plasma fire filled the command deck. Kira dove behind a console as superheated rounds vaporized the air where she'd stood. Her team returned fire, but the enforcers' shields absorbed everything. "Yuki, how long?" 60 seconds. "The encryption is adaptive." 30 seconds. 2 of Kira's team were down. The enforcers advanced methodically, professionally, their weapons charging for kill shots. 40 seconds. Kira pulled her last grenade, a Zarkon fragmentation charge, and threw it blind. The explosion knocked one enforcer off balance. She emptied her rifle into the gap in his armor. He went down. 20 seconds. 10 fighters left. The enforcers' formation never broke. Professional soldiers facing desperate humans. The math was simple. 10 seconds. Kira's rifle clicked empty. She looked at her team. Young faces, old faces, all of them knowing this was always a one-way trip. "Done," Yuki screamed. "Broadcasting now." The command deck's displays flickered. Every screen on the Dominion's fist showed the same message, written in perfect Zarkon script and broadcast across every communication channel in the fleet. "This is humanity. We are taking our world back." Then every Zarkon weapon system on Earth simultaneously turned on its operators. Vexillar watched in horror as his tactical display went crimson. On the ground, harvester drones opened fire on Zarkon soldiers. Defense turrets swiveled toward their own troops. Transport shuttles' autopilots engaged, slamming them into military installations. The neural network, the invisible thread that connected every piece of Zarkon technology, had become humanity's weapon. "Override. Manual override," Vexillar roared. But the failsafe was absolute. The Council had designed it to be unbreakable. They just never imagined anyone would turn it against them. On Earth, Marcus Chen watched feeds from across the globe. Zarkon forces were in full retreat, abandoning equipment, fleeing to their ships. Human fighters poured from their hiding places, reclaiming streets block by block. The tide had turned in minutes. "All cells, advance," Marcus commanded. "Drive them off our world." Aboard the Dominion's Fist, Kira's team fought through the last enforcer. Yuki maintained the broadcast, her fingers flying across controls, locking down every system she could reach. The flagship's engine suddenly roared to life, not toward Earth, but away from it. "I've programmed their retreat vector," Yuki said with fierce satisfaction. "The entire fleet will jump to hyperspace in 90 seconds. Without their equipment, without their installations. They're leaving everything behind." Kira limped to the viewport and looked down at Earth. Fires still burned, but they were becoming fewer. Blue lights, human resistance signals, were spreading like stars across the planet's night side. Vexillar appeared in the command deck's doorway, alone, his weapon drawn. He stared at the humans who'd infiltrated his flagship, hacked his systems, broken his invasion. "How?" he whispered. Kira met his 4 eyes with her too. "You thought you were fighting primitives. You were fighting the species that climbed out of caves and touched the stars. We don't break. We adapt." Vexillar raised his weapon. Kira's team raised theirs. "Go ahead," she said. "You've already lost." The countdown hit 0. The fleet jumped. One moment, thousands of Zarkon warships hung in Earth's orbit. The next, they were gone, vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind nothing but debris and broken dreams of conquest. Kira's team evacuated in the captured shuttle, burning hard for Earth's atmosphere. As they descended through the clouds, they saw it. Across every continent, humans emerging into daylight. Cities in ruins, yes. Billions lost, yes. But alive. Unbroken. Free. Marcus Chen stood in the Geneva bunker, watching the last Zarkon vessels flee the solar system. Around him, commanders from every continent were already coordinating reconstruction efforts. They'd salvaged enough alien technology to rebuild, to defend themselves if the invaders returned. To reach the stars themselves, sir, an aide said quietly. The Council of Zarkon is broadcasting. They're withdrawing all claims to Earth, declaring it a protected zone. Marcus smiled grimly. The galaxy had watched humanity fall. Now it had watched humanity rise. Word would spread. Other species would hear the story. The primitives who defeated the invincible. The prey that became predators. Broadcast our response, Marcus said. Earth is closed to conquerors, but open to friends. Across the planet, in bunkers and tunnels and ruined cities, humans began to rebuild. They'd lost so much, but they'd gained something too. The knowledge that when faced with extinction, humanity didn't surrender. They struck back, and the galaxy would never underestimate them again.